Oh, I wish I was fishing for real right now. All right, so we're talking saltwater fishing today. I'm Joe, I'm with Red's Fly Shop. We're out here, we're about to do some casting classes, and we're doing a little video before we do that. So saltwater fishing, there's a method of two-handed stripping, and there's also kind of our more standard single-handed stripping. And a really good question before you go on a trip is, are you gonna use one method or the other more than another? Or heck, you might even use both, because there's times to use a two-handed strip and there's times to use a single-handed strip. So the single-handed strip, and I'm gonna set some line out here and we'll talk about the single-handed strip. No matter what you do in saltwater fishing, by the time that fly hits the water, you had better be coming into your strip. That's gonna tighten up your leader, it's gonna straighten everything, it's gonna get any slack out. So that's one thing, regardless of what you're gonna do, that you absolutely need to be good at. And you could do that before you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cast again. I'm gonna throw one false cast, I'm gonna jam it, and I'm already got the line in my hand right here, and I'm coming into my strip so that I could make my line nice and clean. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna let the fly sit and sink for a moment as hopefully a fish is approaching that I'm gonna ambush, but I need to be quick. Now the same is gonna be true with your two-handed strip. So regardless of what you're gonna do and why, we need to practice being really, really quick. So I'm gonna throw one false cast, two, and by the time that thing's in the air, I can actually get it in there and put the brakes on it. So that's gonna require some practice. And do not wait until you're on the bow of a panga boat or on a beach for roosterfish before you learn how to do this kind of stuff. Do it right here, right now. If you've got a big trip planned, get your rod out. This is a 12 weight that I'm casting here today, and get good at those little moves, because saltwater fishing is high stakes. We want to make sure that we have our stuff together before we get to said destination, investing all that time and resources in getting there. Okay, so either one, you have to be able to be quick. You got to be able to come into your strip, and there are pros and cons to each one. Now, regarding species, generally the two-handed strip is going to be used to imitate fleeing bait fish. And I was recently on a trip in the Florida Keys where we were fishing worm patterns, so that's kind of one of the rare exceptions where we would have a much smaller strip like this right here. The advantage to the two-handed strip is going to be kind of threefold, maybe two. I don't know. We'll see if the third one really counts. So one is, it's just constant movement. I don't have any stopping. So even if I'm going slow, I can create a really nice agitation to the fly as I go. And with Tarpon on Palala worms, we're going to do a very small strip just like that right there. The other advantage is going to be just a fast rate of retrieve. Let's say I'm after a real fast swimming species like a jack crevalle that really attacks. A jack, I can start with a medium pace strip like this, and as I see that the fish is chasing, that's when little fish begin to swim faster. So I want to keep a little bit in reserve, and eventually I want to speed that fly up and make it look like that bait fish is accelerating in fear to try to get away from said predatory fish. So fast rate of retrieve, constantly moving. There's actually like 4 advantages to the two-handed strip. But the next one is going to be that I don't have that big stop when I single-handed strip. No matter what, I'm always going to have a big stop as I reach back up here. It doesn't care how fast I am, because my hand is going this way and now it's got to be going this way. So, and if I miss a strip, if I come up here and my fingers slip off, which happens, now I've got an even bigger delay. And when that bait fish stops fleeing from predator fish, it just doesn't look real. It looks totally phony. So no delay between strips is the other one. And then the last one, if you're a saltwater fisherman, you know that we want to strip strike these fish, okay? And it's one of the hardest things for a new saltwater angler to do is not lift their rod and not trout set when that fish eats, okay? So the two-handed strip as well is good if, let's say I've practiced, I'm ready to go, and a two-handed strip is really great for open water situations. I'll discuss a little bit more about where and why you might want to use the two-handed strip situationally. But when I have a fish strike, let's say I'm just going like this right here, and I wish I had another helper down there to stand on my line to imitate a hook set, but with a two-handed strip, I can jam the fish right here, and I can jam it again, and if it moves towards me a little bit, I can take up that slack generally they're going to eventually veer off and go about 180 away because they encounter danger going one way. They're going to turn 180 and go the other. But that I can't lift my rod. So, in fact, I'm going to have my cameraman step on the line, and we're going to do it like this. So I jam it right here, and I've got that fish, and maybe I need to hit it again just like that. And it's really easy when that fish, once I've established that I've got a tug of war, I can drop that rod right into my hand very, very easily. And it isn't nearly as hard or as intimidating as you think it is, because I always knew that I would find situations that a two-handed strip would become a big advantage, and it's made me a much, much better fisherman. But I got into some schools one time of jack creval in Costa Rica, and man, we were catching a lot of jacks, and the tarpon fishing was brutally tough. We weren't getting any tarpon. We got into these schools of jacks, and it was a great opportunity to get really good. And I didn't necessarily need to be there on jacks, but it gave me a lot of confidence that the hook set works great. I can drop it into my hand like so. It's really clean to handle. And it gave me a lot of confidence. So I would implore you, if you're a saltwater fisherman or aspiring saltwater fisherman, you can go strip streamers for trout. You can go strip leeches for trout. You can do some bass fishing. You can go practice on the lawn. It doesn't matter. Just get a little bit of confidence, and that way when your guide suggests two-handed stripping, you're totally ready to go. And you know that you can handle it and you can do it right. And like I said, don't be intimidated by it. It's much easier and more natural than you think. And then plus you can't trout set. Okay. So that's kind of the why and some of the advantages of two-handed stripping. Is it all I ever do? Absolutely not. Lots of one-handed stripping is going to take place, especially for your inshore flat species like bonefish. You're not going to do a two-handed strip. Permit, you're not going to do a two-handed strip. Snook or anything against the mangroves, you know, where you're fishing structure, you're not going to be doing a two-handed strip. The other time that a single-handed strip becomes an advantage is when we're throwing shorter casts where I might have fish moving by the boat, like this right here, and maybe I missed or I was behind the fish and all of a sudden the fish are moving this way and I've got to pick it up and lay it down again, where I'm chasing fish around constantly and I'm having to pick up and lay down a lot. I'm probably not going to go to the two-handed strip just because it is a little bit more work. If I miss a shot here at a cruising fish, I can go, oh man, missed him. And I can get ahead of him again. Maybe I come up a little bit behind again, is because they're moving fast. Then I could lay it down again very, very quickly with a single-handed strip because I'm always in the casting position. So we're not always going to use a two-handed strip, but I think it's like a tool that you absolutely should look into. You should practice it. You should have that in your quiver for saltwater fishing, no matter where you go. Practice a little bit, and that way you're confident in it when the time comes to do it. Especially in situations where we're doing any type of long blind casting or long casting where fish might have the opportunity to follow quite a ways. I found the two-handed strip to be a big advantage and just straight up gets more strikes.